What's up, guys, and welcome to this episode of Tuesday Night Talks with Miqk. For those of you just checking in for the first time, I do a Facebook Live answering social media questions, any sort of marketing question, really. I really want to start talking about other stuff, and that's a lot of the reason why I have our special guest, Bardia, here. But for those of you that don't know, I'm the co-founder of 712 Media. I'm obsessed with personal branding and digital branding, as well as the New York Giants and Eggs Benedict and BB-8. So, we have Bardia here. Bardia,
what's up, man?
why don't you introduce yourself to everybody here?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me, Mikhail. I've been watching your Facebook Lives here for a couple months now, and it always has some good content, so glad to be here.
Awesome.
So yeah, some of you guys, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Bardia. I have a marketing company, a supplement company to be exact. The company name is called Pregame Labs. And we do party support supplements, so like anti-hangover, we have a festival supplement, we have, some of you guys might have seen, it's like an Asian glow supplement, and we have like a sleep formula, and we're coming out with some other cool stuff as well. So yeah, let's talk some marketing stuff.
I promise you, I was paying attention, just needed to share this page to my other page because
yeah,
I'm that self-indulgent. It's so gnarly.
Well, yeah, it's part of it, you know, when you do Facebook Lives.
So tell us a little bit about the company. I mean, we have in the header today that we're going to talk about like how to get over a hangover, and I'd actually like to talk about that first. So how did you start your company? What are you guys doing? How are you getting your name out there?
Awesome, man. Those are some good questions. So we started the company in September of 2016, and me and my two partners, I actually met him about a year ago before that, but you know, we became best friends. We were hanging out all the time. He actually had a supplement company, and I was doing some other things at the time, but then we joined forces. We're actually doing a lot of partying ourselves and taking anti-hangover supplements to make sure that, you know, we're good the next day and we can get work done and stuff like that. So as we sort of just dived into, you know, the market and we started researching the niche, we found that there's a few companies out there, but there isn't like a brand name that everybody knows about. You know, people have like heard of, you know, some of them. They've seen the ones on, you know, the shelves at 7-Eleven, but there isn't that one thing where it's like, hey, if we're gonna drink tonight, like we need to have this with us, right? And so when we started,
vodka. Like if I'm gonna drink, I need vodka with me.
Right, that too.
Yeah. Just keep drinking?
Yeah.
Is that what I want to be talking about on this? I'm sorry, Ron, if you're watching.
Yeah, but it basically came down to, it's like, hey man, let's create this awesome party support supplement company. Let's show people how important it is to be supplementing both before and after you know, you drink. It's like this is a really good example I give. Like, everybody loves to work out, right? With the Instagram fitness craze, all of a sudden everyone's posting their workouts on Instagram, da-da-da-da. Well, when you go to work out, which you do something positive for your body, everybody is super obsessed with having a protein shake after, right? To help you rebuild muscle and to make consistent growth. However, why is it that, especially all of us millennials here who are drinking on the weekend and having fun, doing whatever, why is it that we're not taking preventative measures to protect our health, protect our liver, make sure we wake up, you know, 120% for work tomorrow? Especially as us, as entrepreneurs, like we don't have time to miss things, right? We have to show up. So that's sort of like the concept behind it, is educating people on the value of supplementing when you're going backwards, right?
Awesome. Yeah, I like that. For me, like, I've kind of actually just cut back on drinking altogether for money, and then because I also don't want to like wake up hangover. And then in addition to that, I also want to exactly Taco Tuesday. In addition to that, I'm also trying to lose some weight, so that's all pretty excellent. So I want to get into your marketing plan and what you're doing. I saw some videos that you guys are doing, and they're awesome. You also correct me if I'm wrong. Did you have 4 million or 400,000 views on one of the videos that you guys did?
400,000.
That's still pretty heavy. Did you put any like ad spend behind that?
Yeah, definitely. It was we ran a video for our first product, which was called No Glow, which was like an anti-alcohol flush. You know, Asians, when they turn red, they sort of turn, or when they drink, they turn red. I'm sure you're familiar with it. So it helps.
I actually don't turn red, buddy.
Yeah, so it helps reduce the redness, and we made an awesome testimonial video, and did pretty well its first month, and over the course of the last couple months, it's close to around 400,000 views.
Oh, that's amazing. So are you selling the product through your website?
Yeah, it's through our website. We actually ended up rebranding that product. It was originally called No Glow, but now it's going to be called Reducerol. We're actually working on a very, very big video. Like, we actually a big production that, we've been going back and forth on it. We ran into some issues because we had to rebrand, but hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll be launching that, and that'll be super exciting.
Awesome. So I definitely want to get more into your Facebook ad strategy to get all those views. For everybody just tuning in, or if you've never been here before, remember that this is also a live Q&A. Melissa, it's so great to see you. Patrick, so great to see you as well. So if you have any questions about social media marketing, how to get over a hangover, where Bardia works out, or anything like that, feel free to ask the questions and we will answer them live if possible. So let's get back to the Facebook ads. I'm assuming, were you boosting posts? Were you using Ads Manager? Have you used Facebook ads in the past? I know we were talking a little bit earlier. You said like you're kind of more getting into it now than you were before. So I'd like to hear a little bit, and I think the audience would like to hear a bit more about your trial and error.
Yeah, so I really start to dive deep within Facebook ads with this last company that we created with Pregame Labs. I did a little bit before that, but I would say my real growth and experience has come in these last 8 months as we've been running ads to push our supplements into the marketplace. With regard to the first video we did with No Glow, that was actually a boosted post. We found that through, like you said, trial and error, using Ads Manager, doing split tests across different audiences and things like that, a boosted post really was driving the most engagement and traffic.
Nice. Okay.
And so, we ended up putting, a few $1,000s behind that, and it did. I think it did very well. Obviously our product was targeted towards specifically like a demographic or an ethnic demographic,
Sure.
like Asians, so we
Sure.
could target Asians.
Right.
We knew it was probably millennials between
Right.
the ages of 22 and let's say 35.
Sure.
And then, and the beautiful thing about Facebook ads is now you can figure out, okay, who's my audience and who's my demographic, like what are their interests, right?
Right.
So we started looking up a bunch of Asian blogs and seeing, okay, who are the sort of the social media influencers within the Asian community? Who are the Asian, for example, comedians that a lot of Asians follow? Joe Coy, yeah, exactly. And, BuzzFeed. A lot of millennials are into BuzzFeed, right? And so they're ones who probably drink or have that party-esque lifestyle or so. So, it was a lot of testing, but after we found a market that was working, it ended up being like a 2 to 3 return on investment for ad spend. So whatever we would put in, if we put in 500, we would get 1,000 to 1,500 back, the next day.
It's not bad.
Yeah, so that's a beautiful thing about Facebook ads, and I'm in a few different groups, and
Yeah.
people show literally they'll go from 0 to 30,000 in their first month. Just it's not typical results, but it's
Right.
certainly doable.
Right. Anthony, thank you so much for checking in, and thank you for sharing the post as usual. I love the fact that you went super deep into the ad targeting, and in fact, I actually advise our clients to use the Ads Manager, except for when we're doing like some sort of like blog post or something they want to go viral.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily, because I feel like it's more of a broad spectrum or like a broad audience that you want to reach when you're going viral. So was that kind of your strategy when you were doing that?
Yeah, looking back, it was really our first time doing it, and we haven't tested enough to know. We're definitely going to start testing it more as we roll out these new products. But yeah, you definitely go a lot more targeted with Ads Manager versus a boosted post. You can put in some interest and things like that.
Sure.
But yeah, it definitely hits a wider audience.
So we actually, hey Barbara, thank you for checking in. We actually did get some questions throughout the week and today actually that had to do with Facebook ads. I kind of gave my 2 cents on this, but one of our audience members, Melissa, actually asked about whether or not there's such thing as too narrow of an audience with Facebook ads. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a really good question, and Melissa, I'd like to follow up with that by asking you, what do you mean by too narrow? Because some people might call too narrow as, let's say, 2,000 people or 5,000 people, while others might call narrow 40,000 people.
So to give you a little context, she is targeting like different schools in the area. And when she sent me a screenshot, and it was like 400 to 500 people per day, which is obviously a little low, and the audience was super low there. But one of the recommendations I made to her was, instead of saying that the targeting had to match one or two criteria at the minimum, to make it just to match one, and then in addition to that, broaden it a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good angle. Is really split testing. If you try to test too many variables at once, you're not going to know what's working. And again, it goes back to, I guess, too narrow isn't necessarily the right question to ask. If you're targeting schools, if you're, it depends on what your product and what your service is. You could target a very, very narrow audience who's very, very targeted. But if those people are looking for what you want and they can drive results, whether you're looking for leads, whether you're looking for people to buy your product or service, whatever the case may be. I'd love to sit down with you on a personal basis, or we can consult over email or phone so I can give you a better understanding. But there's way too many variables to, I think, say, is it too targeted? Because it can be too targeted, and it could definitely drive results too.
For sure.
Again, I'd be happy to go into more detail with that once I find out a little bit more about exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think being able to, so for her, she's running TutorBot. A TutorBot or TutorBit. I can't actually remember.
Okay.
But it's something like that, and it's from my understanding, it's essentially like a student can pair themselves using an algorithm to the perfect tutor for them, right?
Okay.
So she's targeting high school people in the Orange County area, high school, and that might be struggling with, math or whatever it is. So like me, but like for something like that. So the recommendation I made was like, hey, look, because we were targeting every single school, right? But for her, because it's 15 to 18 and their education level is high school, you don't necessarily have to put every single school, because pretty much like the people that are 15 to 18, they're going to be in high school anyway. So if you can reach them one way or another, and you know what I mean, that might be good enough for them. So
definitely, yeah. And one of the big things about Facebook is constantly testing. Sometimes we've ran ads and had certain types of copy or certain types of creatives where we're like, dude, that is an amazing ad, that's going to kill it, and it just doesn't nearly get the response that we were looking for. And then we test another creative or another type of copy, which we're like, let's see what happens, and it responds better. So testing all day.
Absolutely. So we always tell our clients too, when we're running ads, that we actually want to test like 5 different creatives for one objective, for example. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah. I think from originally, we've gone through ups and downs of understanding it, like what's the perfect way to run Facebook ads, right? And I don't think that many people know. It's a huge, crazy ball game here. But originally, I think testing, a few different creatives, as you said, but then testing multiple audiences to see which audience is buying. Then whatever audience is buying first, then you can cut the other ones off and focus on the people who are buying. And then with those people who are buying, you can start testing 1 to 2 variables at a time.
I love this. You speak so well, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
You're making me look bad on my own show. All right, so follow-up question to that. Let's say you have a limited budget. You're a small business, okay? Limited budget, small business. Let's take TutorBit, as an example. Would you recommend, with let's say $500 a month, would you recommend doing a more narrow audience or a wider audience for more awareness?
I guess number one, it comes down to your goals. So what are you looking for? If you want to go awareness and you can allocate a part of that budget, maybe run like a PPE campaign, and that won't necessarily help you get conversions, but it will find all the people who Facebook's algorithm will find all the people who naturally comment and like and share a lot. So you can run that ad for a period of time, build up a ton of social proof on it, get some comments, hopefully get a lot of shares and build that natural organic reach. And then once you have like a post that has engagement and that looks legitimate and solid to your target audience, I believe what you can do now is create a new campaign, go for the objective target, and then you can add that that Facebook ID into that campaign, and you keep your social proof. And then again, test. If you can. Traditionally, the way we do it is we go more broad, and then after we look at the demographics and who's buying and the locations, we'll slowly narrow in on who's buying, and that'll allow us to bring our cost per acquisition down, and get more targeted engagement and get more targeted people to our website, in which from then build lookalike audiences and custom audiences.
It's a real big process. For everybody just joining in, thank you so much. Every Tuesday night we do a live Facebook live session, answering social media marketing questions, any sort of marketing questions really. And just so you know, you can ask questions live, so feel free to respond in the comments, and as we see them come up, we'll be sure to answer those questions too. With that being said, I talk about Facebook I feel like I've talked about Facebook ads so much over the last 2 months. I love your insight. It has nothing to do with that.
Dude, I love
but
Facebook ads, man.
I know, I love Facebook ads as well.
Yeah.
Like, that's why 712 exists, kind of. But at the same time, there's so much more that's involved with like marketing yourself.
Totally.
I mean, and I don't want anybody in the audience. Kevin, how you doing? Thank you so much for checking in. I don't want anybody in the audience to think Facebook ads is the end-all be-all, because there's so much more that you're doing. For you,
So
it's
much
easy
more.
because you're handsome, so people probably just want to buy shit from you. For me, a little bit more difficult. Like, I have to use my words.
Right.
So what are some other marketing techniques, like, for your product
Yeah.
that you've used that you found to be successful?
Yeah, so Facebook ads, one that we just covered. Second thing that we're working on right now and really working on building out is like a really awesome brand ambassador program. So right now we're contacting Instagram influencers on a regular basis, probably like, sending 20 to 50 outreach messages per day, which, we could definitely scale up once we get our VAs dialed in. But we're just messaging these Instagram influencers, people who have between, let's say, 2 and 25,000 followers, or targeting some of the larger meme pages that get, 50,000 to 200,000 engagement per post. Pay them, either send them a free bottle of our supplement, or pay them a couple $100 or $50 or whatever the requirements are based on what we think makes sense. And that helps us get the word out there. We give them a special coupon code, and then we'll be able to track the sales. So that's another way. Google AdWords is also another good tool that we haven't dived into yet, but is incredibly powerful, depending on the niche and if it makes sense, for the cost per click in your industry.
Sure. So Dan is actually asking, or kind of talking about what we're talking about. It sounds like the key is going broad and try to determine the target audience before just going for a more narrow audience. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would say so, but even before that, really the key is, when you're getting into any type of business or niche, is really figuring out who your target audience is first. Really like building out an insanely long customer profile, like where do they hang out, what type of music do they listen to, what comedians do they like, what movies do they watch, like really understanding the mind of your customer, what keeps them up at night, like what are the real problems that they have.
Right.
And then once you have all that figured out, when you start building out your campaigns, starting broad is, and this is just what we found, always a little bit better. But again, broad is this funky term that, we still haven't quite defined yet. Broad could be 100,000, depending on your niche. If you just have a super, shoulder niche, versus broad could be, 500,000 for a different niche, or 20,000.
So a quick example, Dan, that we found, that I found running a campaign was, I was working with a client, and they really were super strong on that. Their target demographic was women between the ages of 35 and 45. We ran campaigns against that, and we also ran campaigns against a younger demo between 28 and 35, and we actually found that we got far more engagement and far more traffic to the website based off of the younger demo. So kind of based off what Bardia is saying and what you're saying is we tried different audiences, did go super broad with everything, but after studying Facebook Insights, what you can do is you can see who's actually engaging, as you said earlier.
Absolutely.
Who's engaging, then you target against that in the future, right? Of course, you never want to leave out anybody, but you'll actually find that you probably have more segments to your market than you initially thought. And what's funny is people just behave differently. The people walking through the door might be ages 35 to 45, but the people engaging on Facebook might be younger, or they might be older, or you could probably just kind of confirm what you thought and found that most of the people are there. But you'd be surprised what you find, I think, when you really dive into it.
Yeah.
So, again, just real quick, I'd recommend when you're first starting out, do go a little wide, segment it out a little bit, but then the most important part is to study your Facebook Insights and see who's engaging the most so that you know where to allocate the most resources.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Well said.
Yeah. So can we change gears like a lot? Being a business owner, a marketer, how do you do it? What is your daily routine?
And that's a good question.
I know that came out of left field, but I really want to talk to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, what specifically? Just what happens from when I wake up and go to sleep?
Yeah, well, you obviously work out, and I know that sounds like a joke, but I think that's something that I like to do. It's super important to stay focused and keep the ideas fresh. So, what do you do to stay focused and keep your ideas fresh as a marketer and a business owner?
That's a great question. I think going back to the working out thing, I think if we can just touch on that, this could probably lead in and segue into a lot of different things. Like,
Sure.
how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? So, like, if you care about your health and you value, your health and you're actively working out and you're building momentum in that area of your life, that's going to carry over into other parts of your life. So that's just one of those things is like, I was listening to this Tony Robbins, and he was talking about like some people associate working out and going to the gym and doing that whole thing with pain, while others associate it with pleasure. So for some people, it's a drag to go to the gym, and the other people, it's a pleasure to go to the gym, and they get a lot out of it. So it's sort of that concept, which I guess you can see how it applies to your own life. But with us and what we're doing right now with our supplement company, I usually meet up with my partners like around 11 or 12, because I have some other things I do in the morning. And, we go from about 12 to probably 7 every day. Yeah. And it consists of, strategizing, figuring out where we're at with our ads, with our approach, with, our new supplements coming in, building out different offers, throwing up a new website. One thing that we've been working on lately is building out our back-end funnel. So another thing, I'm sure you're familiar with Russell Brunson. Sure. Yeah, ClickFunnels and all that. Once I dived into the world of funnels and sales funnels and front end and back end and all that, like I had a massive, massive paradigm shift within my business. Yeah. One of the things he talks about that I wasn't really aware of, and I think a lot of business owners or e-commerce people aren't aware of, is that you don't have to necessarily be profitable on the front end. If you break even lose a little bit of money, that's okay, because now what you've done is you've acquired either a big email list or a Facebook account that has a ton of pixel fires. You have an audience that you can market to. So your cost per acquisition is going to come down significantly. And one thing we've implemented on the back end, which works really effectively for supplements, is an upsell and downsell sequence. So right now, if you go to my website and you order, you can either choose 1, 2, or 3 bottles. Immediately, regardless of whether you buy 1 or 3, there's a video of me talking, and I upsell you on 3 more bottles for like half the price. Awesome. And there's some scarcity involved. Hey, we're never going to do this again. And 20% of people are paying an extra $45, or average order value is coming up from $30 or $40 to $90, right? Sure. So, which makes Facebook much more profitable on the front end, right? Because you have to consider your cost per acquisition, then your cost of goods, and all those different things. Sure. So the funnel thing is one thing I've been super excited about, and we've been implementing, and it's so crazy, man. Last week somebody bought a 3-bottle and then a 3-bottle upsell, and they spent $137 like real quick. Nice. The day before, that wasn't there, so they didn't buy it. Right. And it's like, in the world and in business, like, you get what you ask for. Sure. So if you don't provide the opportunity for your customers, they're never going to get it from you.
I love that. Nolan Springer has a question. Is it possible younger age groups are more inclined to engage, in my case, the younger audience, but does the older audience is the only one converting, so engagement becomes irrelevant? Is it possible younger age groups are more inclined to engage?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, younger people are the ones commenting and sharing and doing all that on a daily basis, right? They're super engaged. But younger people don't nearly have as much money as older people, right? So that's one of the things you definitely have to consider. So you think, like, that person you were talking about, how they're, running tutors, Facebook ads to 15 to 18-year-olds. Well, I think the reality is that there's no 15 or 18-year-old that can afford to pay for a tutor, because they're probably not working. Right. So you might end up actually running that campaign and being like, why am I getting no conversions? Well, because they don't care enough to go tell their mom, right? So you should probably target their parents. Yeah.
Or have a creative, like, are you trying to not be grounded this summer? Maybe you should call us.
Exactly, right.
Maybe you should tell your parents about us. But I think the question here, too, is, like, we have to define what a conversion is for Nolan, and I think a conversion in this case might be a click-through. And I think a lot of older, I have a lot of context on Nolan, so it's like, and I think what happens is with older people, they don't know to not click through. Like, it's an accident almost when they click through and then they don't purchase. But you have to meet, like, when you say older and younger, immediately what comes to my head is like 50 plus, and then like 20 to 30 or maybe like 35 type of thing. And the way that those two people are using Facebook are completely different. So for the younger age group, for example, for brand awareness and for conversions, I would use viral videos, something funny, maybe use hot girls, something like that for a shave club. Whereas the older people, I would hit more about like convenience and like have a more refined ad, because they're not necessarily commenting, tagging their friends, sharing that sort of thing. They're kind of checking up on like their family members or what you've been looking up online. So you really have to meet your audience where they're at.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Perfectly said. Is understanding where your customer is like in the buying cycle. You know, with somebody younger, they might be inclined to make a more hot, like quick, you know, just purchase, while somebody older wants to go to the website and they're worried about giving their credit card information up. So they need seals of approval and they need some extra testimonials and reviews.
100.
You know, so it's, you know, and that all just comes back to the testing. You know, as an internet marketer, as a business owner, you're constantly refining and testing your landing page and your copy and doing those things. So
I love this question from Matthew. What personal branding influencers do you recommend to follow to stay focused and feel inspired?
That's nice. Personal branding influencers.
Personal development. I think I said branding because it's just something I talk about so much.
Oh man, there's a ton.
For me, it's like Gary Vaynerchuk, obviously. I stopped listening to Gary Vaynerchuk. And not anything bad. It's like it's the same 3 or 4 things all the time.
Yeah.
Tony Robbins got me started. I know that you kind of dropped in on that, but like 3 years ago actually, I'm 5'6", 5'7" for all the ladies out there. But like, I'm 5'6", and I was over 200 pounds, and I just needed to make some changes. Tony Robbins really got me started. And then from Tony Robbins, like it was just stuff that I did on my own. And then I came across Gary Vaynerchuk 2 or 3 years later. And because of like what I had gone through with social media marketing and building 712, and then Gary Vee, it was like, you know, it was kind of a natural pickup. But who do you listen to? I know that you...
How do we go back to the question?
The question is, what personal development or influencers do you recommend to follow or stay focused to feel inspired?
Yeah, so all the traditional ones that, you know, Gary Vee. I don't watch Gary Vee too much anymore. I used to a lot in the beginning. Recently, if I've been wanting to like get my mind right, I'll listen to Tony Robbins, just because the way he breaks things down, I just love it.
Right.
I don't know if you guys are into like philosophy and stuff, but like Alan Watts has like been one of the biggest like mentors and influencers in my life. I started listening to him like when I was 18, and I had like a ritual for like 4 years where I listened to Alan Watts every night before I went to sleep. Like it was a ritual for me.
Nice.
And that's helped with just general like self-awareness and growth and a lot of different aspects, not just within business or entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Typically right now within my business, when I'm getting like, when I'm trying to learn a new concept, I'll just dive into the specific, like when I'm studying copywriting, I'll get into like Gary Vaynerchuk, like Eugene Schwartz, Gary Halpert, and a few other guys.
Yeah.
So I typically just dive in to what I'm like studying. But the more traditional stuff, you know, Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone.
Yeah, I like that.
Alan Watts.
Travis Hightower says, pain versus pleasure reprogramming. Very true. That's the big one. You were talking about that earlier with the going to the gym and everything like that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, I think what time? 7:28. That's perfect.
Yeah, we're pretty much wrapping up here.
We're pretty much wrapping up here. Everybody that checked in, thank you so much. Bardia, where can everybody find you? We'll tag it up, but where can everybody find you? You
can find me on Instagram, Bardicus Maximus. I haven't officially branded that out yet, but you'll find me on Mikhail's Facebook here, Bardia Rizai. And if you guys want to visit my website, pregamelabs.com, we have our anti-hangover supplement drinker all coming out in a week or two, and it's very, very effective, guys. I mean, this stuff reduces hangover by like up to 80 to 90% after, you know, having a very good night. Yeah. So you guys might want to check that out.
I definitely know some people that might want to try that out myself.
Yeah.
So, again, thank you so much for checking in every Tuesday night. We will see you next week at 7 p.m. Same place, same channel. Same channel. And if you guys do have any more questions, feel free to load them up in the comments, and we'll get to them. If not tonight, then next week. But thank you again for your attention, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.